Flip the switch, turn it on. Animation's never gone. From Toontown tales to frames that glow. Behind the scenes, come join the show. It's Lightbox. Bright ideas, cartoons alive. Lightbox, where animation thrives. Sketch it, ink it, bring it to life. Let's talk anime, art, and cartoons tonight. Lightbox, the way to that way.
Okay. Welcome to Lightbox, the official podcast of Wanimate, the West Australian Animation Association. Gasp! Whether you're an aspiring animator, a seasoned professional, or simply a fan of the magical world of animation, you've come to the right place. My name is Tanya Beeson.
And I'm David O'Connell, and I guess it's Wonder Twin Powers activate for this episode.
Aha! You know, unless Lindsay joins us at some point later.
Which is possible. He could always go gleek, so, we're good.
Yeah. And what we need is like a robot version to replace the Human Torch that is Lindsay.
Ah! All right. So where do you go to on this monthly journey into the heart of the animation industry in Western Australia?
Oh, that's where we were.
That's where we were.
Each month, Lightbox will bring you the latest and greatest in animation news, from upcoming films and shows to industry discussions that will inspire and empower the talented animators who call Western Australia home. We'll also delve into the creative processes and challenges faced by our local animators as they work tirelessly to bring their unique visions to life. So buckle up and get ready to be amazed as we explore the vibrant, ever-evolving world of West Australian animation. This is Lightbox, and we're just getting started. We should first acknowledge and honour the traditional custodians of the land as we are streaming from the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We recognise and celebrate their enduring culture, the rich tapestry of Indigenous arts, and the invaluable contributions they make to the vibrancy and cultural diversity of this city and region.
And as usual, would like to issue a quick advisory warning. Look, our channel is generally suitable for most audiences. There may be occasions when we delve into topics or showcase content that might not be appropriate for younger viewers. We strive to create engaging and enjoyable content for everyone, but just be advised, some material might not be suitable for children. So parental discretion is advised, and we encourage you to review the content before sharing it with younger audiences. Our goal is to provide a safe and enjoyable viewing experience for all, and we appreciate your understanding and support in attempting to achieve this. All right.
Well, straight into the news.
Preamble out.
Yeah. Well, 3:30 is wrapped up, folks. Screening isn't on. The films are in the middle of being judged. There was a large amount of films submitted this year. Yay, well done. And I'm excited to see where everyone goes, including our VFX category. So, as usual...
When is the screening date officially?
4th of August, as I recall. Hold on. Is that right?
Sorry, I put you on this. I thought I was setting you up, and I put you on the spot. Sorry.
That is the 4th of August.
Hey.
So we will be screening on the 4th of August. The night will include the first of the visual effects categories. So for the first time, we ran visual effects to see how it is going to go, and its reception. So will be exciting to see how that worked out. And the film and the screening is always a fun night. You get to see some amazing animations, and you get to, hang out and talk to industry people. And there'll be a few people this year, so it's going to be pretty damn cool. Okay, next slide.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a lot of news this month. Thanks to, was it the Annecy Festival or is it a convention? Which would it be termed?
Festival. I'd say it's a festival.
It's basically an industry gathering where
Yeah.
a lot of announcements are made and to what's on the market in the coming year or so. So we've had announced a new Steven Universe series in the works, which is Lars of the Stars. So that's going to be fantastic.
So Lars of the Stars was already sneakily backdoor piloted from the original series.
Yep.
So, and that was the intention back then. I don't know, season 5 of Steven Universe included the Lars of the Stars episode?
God, it's been a while since I've gone through Steven Universe. It
Yes.
might be 5. It might be slightly earlier, but you've had Lars establishing his own destiny and becoming his own.
And it is most definitely a spin-off. It's not a reimagining. It's not going to be separate. I'm assuming Steven will still maintain his ability to travel through Lars's hair.
Well, yeah, because Lars is a familiar, but never mind.
Yeah.
All right. So, sorry, I should also announce the other thing that was announced on that article, which you don't have, is that Teen Titans Go was actually renewed for another season as well.
Which makes it.
That? No, I missed putting it in there. Sorry. But it was in that article, which makes it, I believe, the longest running DC. Longest continuous running DC animated series. So that says a lot to a lot of the naysayers initially.
I'm in agreement with you.
Well done to Teen Titans Go on that one.
It's one of those things that I do argue with people about. Like, it's a kiddie show that replaced my really, really cool version of Teen Titans, except that that version replaced a version of Teen Titans, and that version replaced a version of
Teen Titans. Yeah, as we're going to see, there's a lot of changes that happen in comics along the way, and in comic book cartoons along the way. That's not too subtle hint about our topic coming up.
Yes.
All right. Let's get into the news and we can get to that then. So BBC is looking to extend the universe with an animated series aimed at younger viewers. They've asked for expressions of interest from companies and looking to start production, I believe, next year. So
that's pretty exciting. We've seen the animated episode recently of Doctor Who, so that's pretty cool.
Yep, Lux. Yep.
Yeah, Lux, but obviously it's not going to be like that. It's going to be pure animated series, and it is aimed at younger audience. So there won't be any horrific horror episodes like we can sometimes expect from regular Who.
So at least there was something as a stopgap measure if the series is actually on hiatus, like it's suspected to be.
And the next one, what I'm calling the Big Barda TV series, because she's on the poster.
Go for it, Tanya. Go for it.
Warner Brothers and DC Studios have greenlit an all-new animated series of Mr. Miracle, based on the DC's critically acclaimed 12-issue comic book series by Tom King and Mitch Gerads.
Hey.
So that's pretty cool, but it's got Big Barda.
And do you want to do the Josh Cooley one as well, which was also
Oh, yeah, of course. Josh Cooley is huge. So Josh Cooley does children's storybooks, and one of his books, I Eat Poop, the Dung Beetle.
It's Mark Petit's children's book, not Josh Cooley's. Yep. Josh Cooley, Sorry, Mark Petz.
Yeah, sorry. It's even written in front of my face. And I'm reading from the script and I still get it wrong. So, Mark Pet's children's book, I Eat Poop, a dung beetle story, is about an anthropomorphized dung beetle who likes to eat shit. And so I'm excited to see where that goes. It's going to be hilarious.
It should be a great bit of toilet humor, so let's go for it. We've got a new Filipino animated series taking Philippine folklore to global heights.
The art out of it looks great, and there's a hopping vampire.
Yep, Sun Chaser. It's an animated series that follows Jordan Santos, whose summer break takes a wild turn when a supernatural curse strikes his family and transforms his island home into a battleground of mythic creatures. So it draws a lot on Filipino folklore, and it's produced by Filipino artist Bobby Pontelis. So Frozen, Moana, and One Small Steps, and Bernard Baden, The Van. And it's produced in partnership with Toon City Animation and Playlab Animation with support of the Animation Council of the Philippines. So that should be really good. And yeah, the art looks great.
So the rest of this page is Adult Swim reveals. So among those were High Safari by Jendi Tartakovsky, who we spoke about last week, and Keeping Up with the Joneses from Hugh Jackman.
And we'll speak about it again at some stage, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it will come up. The interesting one is The Elephant, which is going to be a 3-part animated miniseries where the stories are interconnected, but 3 completely different animation teams are working on it, and they don't get to see what each other is doing.
And some of the names for those animation teams.
Yes. So Pendleton Ward and Rebecca Sugar and Patrick Mahal. So, yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Super excited. I'm keen to see where that goes. So Rebecca Sugar, if you know, we're talking about Steven Universe, is quite busy at the moment with The Elephant. So, and I'm excited.
Yeah, same. That'll be good. All right, and for our good news, exceptionally good news portion of
yes, no, don't panic. We haven't put his face up because he's died. It's fine.
I know we've done that too often, but no, actor Keith David, who depends on how you know him, but you know him. So for our purposes, let's say the voice of Goliath and Gargoyles, the President in Rick and Morty, and who was also in The Princess and the Frog. He's done a huge amount of voice work. Yeah, he's done a huge amount of voice work throughout his life as well. Although if you're a John Carpenter fan, you may recognize him from 2 other movies, which is The Thing and, of course, They Live. But he's getting a star on the Walk of Fame, and bloody well deserved as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, his voice has boomed through the speakers of my watching devices for many a year. So
yeah, and honestly, if you get a chance to see the nomination and him hearing about it, and just seeing this big tough man just overwhelmed with emotion, and just it's a beautiful thing to see. It really
I did
is.
just notice. I did just notice behind his head is a picture of Grimlock. Was he Grimlock in one of the series?
Yeah, in one of the I think it was Robots in Disguise. He was Grimlock. Yeah.
That's cool.
And this one's purely for me. Freerun Beyond Journey's End Season 2 has been announced for January 26th, for the January 2026. So next year we're going to be eating well for fantasy anime. So I'm very happy. We'll probably have the end half of Delicious in Dungeon coming through, hopefully around then, and we should have Witch Hat Atelier at some stage as well. So if you like sword and sorcery and like anime, it's a golden time.
Okay. Right. So upcoming. What's coming?
Some of these are technically out already. Sorry about that. So we've got yeah. So we've got the Smurfs. That's out in the cinemas now. We've got My Dress Up Darling season.
I like the design of the Smurfs. Sorry, just as an aside. I like how they feel. It's not quite 3D. It's not quite 2D. It's like a soft focus 3D. I I like it. It's more cartoony than the scary attempts to make realistic Smurfs. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the preview for it, so I have no idea what it's like. So, okay, so My Dress Up Darling, Season 2, which is a romance anime bordering on harem with cosplay elements. I've no idea how to pronounce this one, so apologies, people. Gachakutu, which is a... How do you describe it? Dystopian setting, looking at wealth equality, very similar to Battle Angel Alita. You've got a rich society on the top of the heap, and all the way down, you've actually literally got a garbage pile, which a kid from the slums is pushed out and down into the garbage pile and forced to make his own living in a nightmare world. Building up and looking at rebellion going forwards. We have Night of the Living Cat. This is interesting. It's a zomcom. It's a take on zombie apocalypse, but instead of zombies, people turn into cats. So let's see how that is. Toilet Bound Hanakunen, Season 2. So looking at very specific Japanese myth. So into the world of the yokai and ghosts. So that should be... It's interesting. I've got to watch Season 1 at some sign. It's on my pile of shame to see what it's like, if it's good, bad, or different.
I just like the Japanese are worst at naming their TV series.
Well, no, it is literally a ghost story of Japan having a ghost bound to a toilet, and it's a very weird, very specific cultural thing. And yeah, here we go. This is this is what we've got. It just seems very weird to us. Okay. So the Summer Hikaru died. This one should be good as well. Good initial buzz on it. It's kind of very Twin Peakian. It's a story about two friends in a small country town, and something odd is happening that may be a existential threat from beyond the void. So it's going to get very, very weird. July 10th, Leviathan. So a steampunk anime. Okay, down for that. The second part of the final season of Dr. Stone, Science Future, comes on July the 10th as well. So see if Dr. Stone can use science to prevent or to reverse the petrification of humanity. New panty and stocking with garter belts. Oh boy. This is one that I've got to...
like, you're exasperated with these Japanese animations. It's like they're putting a random generator together. And...
No. The reason I'm exasperated with this is because it's borderline ecchi. It borders very, very close to hentai, but it's still supposed to be incredibly funny. In some ways, it's the original series was a parody take on Powerpuff Girls and American animation from Studio Gainax, I think it was, and it's fast paced, it's brutal, and it's funny. Basically, two teen superheroes have grown up to become absolute losers later on, but still superpowered individuals, and they're just very lazily trying to save the city. So I'm curious to see what the new series can do with that. Rising of the Shield Hero, Season 4. Yeah. and it's a series that hasn't really appealed to me, but it does have its fans out there. Toujin Anki, again, that's going to be pretty much a shonen manga with demon bloodlines, and it should provide, I don't know, dark fantasy shonen. That would be worthwhile watching if it's your thing. The second part of Sakamoto Days, season 1, is hitting on July 14th on Netflix, and Sakamoto Days is great storyline, middling animation. It's still
I
a
like
lot of
the
fun.
I like the art style of it.
The artwork's good. The actual style of fights and the actual use of animation isn't great. So the artwork's initially established by the manga. It looks all right. It's just not. I don't even know how to say it. Not enough oomph to what should be amazing fights. It's basically what if John Wick got retired, kept his wife, and got fat, and then people started to come after him. But Sakamoto is quite an interesting individual. It's a good series despite itself, but it should be S tier, and it's not. It's just a nice comfort food. Kaiju number 8 is coming on July 19th, although that should be season 2. Although there was Crunchyroll did drop extra episode over the weekend, which is just kind of a nice little bridging episode that happens in season 1. So if you want to catch up on the characters and remind yourself of them, there's a new episode out there on Crunchyroll.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse Plus.
Yep, on July 22nd.
It's more of the same. The 3D models look a little bit better than they did in the last version of Clubhouse, but we'll see where they go. I'm assuming it's preschool stuff as per usual.
Yeah. No, I don't know anything. I don't know too much about the next 2. KIF season 2.
Yeah, it's a goofy squirrel character. I haven't gotten into it, but it has an amazing art style, so I do like it. The other one, Stugo, is off my radar, so I'm going to have to hunt it down and have a look.
Season 1, so it's starting. Yeah. So so that's a lot we've gone through, and I have forgotten something. Sorry, I should say there's also Revival House is doing quite a few animated films over the coming weeks. I believe it's got Foot Flats on the 11th. Cowboy Bebop movies come on the 18th. What's the other 2? Cinderella and I've forgotten one. Anyway, look at Revival House. Check to see what they've got. Sorry?
In Como,
yep. So check to see what they've got screening there. Also, then check to see about, I believe, Lesbian Space Princesses.
The Queer Film Club are going to go see Lesbian Space Princess as part of Rev on Sunday.
Excellent.
So it's going to be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's a busy month. And there's a lot more out there with a new season of Japanese anime that's come down. I've only covered a little amount of it, so there's a lot there for you. So take a look if that's your thing. All right, so let's
hit it. Let's
okay.
Talking about Max Fleischer.
All right, preview it first, because this month we're seeing the Superman movie coming out later this coming week, actually, and I believe we've got Fantastic Four towards the end of the month.
Yes.
So we've got 2 big DC and Marvel films coming out. So we thought we'd look at a little bit of the history of DC and Marvel and animation. Particularly, we're going to be looking at the 70s. Don't worry, we're not going to try and cover the entirety of it because we would go insane just trying to cover the Diniverse.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, we would. So let's look at a brief history. So before we hit the 70s, we're going to have to look at the history of superheroes in media. So we've certainly had serials released in the 40s and cut down for TV and replayed from the 50s onwards of Superman, Batman, Captain Marvel, Captain America, and of course the cartoon series that we know and love that pretty much wrote the language for action.
I'm sorry, I just had a complete mind blank as to holy crap, Captain Marvel back then. But we're talking about
we're talking about who comes down as
Shazam.
Yeah.
So, see, they've already done it. They've eaten away at my brain.
Yeah. Okay, so so we have that. We have the Flash of Superman cartoons, Roscope cartoons. As I was saying, they pretty much wrote the book. They invented the visual language for superheroes in animated series and how those feats of strength were shown
in the comics as well. So a lot of the stuff from the Flash series went back into the comics. Before Flash, our Superman couldn't fly. He could leap tall buildings in a single bound. So a lot of those things that were used as animation shortcuts were carried across as well. So
actually, it also becomes like a lore from cartoons being cycled back into comics certainly becomes a thing as we move along as well. We're talking about the Diniverse. There's at least two examples of that I can think of. One with Harley Quinn and the second with Brainiac's origin becoming more in line with that. So it does happen. I swear there's stuff from Super Friends that gets tied in that way, and I swear there's stuff from New Adventures that gets tied in that way later on. So yeah, it's interesting. So okay, we've had the Flash Superman cartoons. We had the 1950s, the Adventures of Superman TV series with George Reeve. I'd forgot to mention the radio series, which was vastly popular as well. Superman radio series, which ties in later. In 1960s, we have the Batman TV series, which we know and love, with the Cape Crusaders being incredibly camp with Burt Woodward and Adam West. And it's probably one of the highlights of the Silver Age and that sort of pop art aesthetic of superheroes that sort of associated with that.
There's nothing like a Dutch tilt in a villain's lair.
Yeah, absolutely. But what that meant is that there was during the 50s and 60s there was growing popularity of superheroes, not in a way that we sort of recognize it today, but in a way that certainly did give them more recognition, especially among kids. So in the 60s, we started seeing cartoon series being aimed towards those by both the big publishing houses. So we're not going to go in depth for 60s animation because I think we're going to circle back to that on another date because there's a lot of weird superheroes that are not from the two publishing houses that come out that I think we want to talk about. But for Marvel, you had the Marvel superheroes, which was pretty much the Avengers or the Invaders, covering a lot of basic Marvel storylines, introducing us to I've got there Cap, Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, and Namor.
Namor as well, yeah.
Yep.
The Submariner. Yeah. So,
And
you remember these series because they often were really well drawn, or drawn in the comic book style of the time,
Yeah.
but with really limited animation. So
they are pretty much a motion comic,
Yeah.
and that's I think that's was it Gaintree Lawrence Animation responsible for it, and American Animation House, and they it's very 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 cheap animation, but beautifully drawn, and they
the best
do
songs, the best theme songs.
absolutely. I mean, I think at least 2 of them have been reused in Marvel movies going forwards. Spider-Man by Raimi and Captain America. Iron Man theme gets used as a sting in the casino in the first Iron Man movie.
Yes.
No,
and
yeah.
We didn't get the theme of the Rainbow Bridge to Asgard.
No, and this probably would have been one of our first sort of experiences with Marvel superheroes as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
This and the Spider-Man that we're going to talk about in the 60s, because they were on constant repeat during the 70s.
Because he overlaps quite a bit into that, into the 70s, we kind of lumped him over there. But the big one, and probably the best animated series aside from Spider-Man at that time, was the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, was that Ruby Spears or Filmation responsible for that one?
I don't think it's Filmation. Ooh. Do I?
I know Filmation gets a big one later on for when we talk about.
No, it's Ruby.
It's Ruby Spears. Yep.
Yeah. So
that makes sense.
They don't do any. They don't do any Marvel stuff. Filmation. So.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So and as you can see there, look, there's all the members of the original Fantastic Four. We'll be talking about in the 70s because that goes awry. Look, the Marvel stuff was incredibly cheap. Voiced acted by about 3 people. Barely emotion. Great songs, and oddly enough, most of it was really good as kind of a bit of a catch up for early superhero lore as well, in the days predating the internet. It wasn't always one for one. The stories told. I mean, there's a time when Namor goes up against what should have been the Fantastic Four, and it turns into the X-Men because they didn't have the rights to the Fantastic Four. So, but generally they're relatively close to their comic book origins. All right, as for DC in the 60s.
Oh, let's jump. There we go.
Now, most of this is early Filmation stuff. I believe almost all of it, yeah. And
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So
we've got new adventure, and this is a weird one because it's kind of hard to keep a track of everything there because
there's a lot of reuse. So the series, I always lump them in one big lump because they are reusing a lot of stuff. There's a lot of overlap, and maybe they introduce 1 or 2 new characters and things. So
and it's not. And it's not, as we consider, kind of series of animations now, 25 minutes block of one story. It's broken up into episodic cartoons, not necessarily of the same superhero, not even necessarily from the same publisher. During this time, you had things like Batman and Tarzan Animation Adventure Hour, locking in both those characters together. Basically the format generally was about 2 to 3 12 to 18 minute episodes, the cartoons episodes. I think the initial was Adventures of Superman, later on turning into the New Adventures of Superman.
New Adventures of Superman, followed by the New Adventures of Superboy.
Yeah, or the Adventures of Superboy.
Yeah.
And that would be looking at adding a Superboy episode to the Superman series. Later on, you'd get the Superman Aquaman Hour of Adventure, which would be adding Aquaman and other members of the Justice League into their own sort of series. And again, 16, 15-minute odd cartoons broken up going through. It would later morph into the
Batman Superman Hour.
Adventure Hour, and then the Adventures of Batman. And you also had as I said, the aforementioned Batman Tarzan Hour of Adventure as well there. But I think that was mainly repeats from previous series. So there's a lot of reuse, occasionally reusing entire episodes. It's the animation errors are rife in a lot of this. The background details are often terrible and very static, especially in the Adventures of Batman. Some of the things I've seen, they are not even grounded as such. They are just placed against a background and moving in a background that has literally no grounding. But having said that, it was also a lot of interesting voice actors that were working their way through this at the time.
Yeah.
It started off with, I believe, as some of the old voice actors from the radio series, voicing Superman, Lois, and the Jimmy or the narrator. I believe Lois was a later edition. I seem to recall the first series of Superman was just Superman and Jimmy and their toxic relationship, where Superman tells Jimmy not to do something and Jimmy does something, and then Superman has to save Jimmy and then, berates Jimmy for doing that thing, and rinse and repeat.
Jimmy just likes the attention from Superman.
Yeah, it's there's been analysis of that, and that's a pretty toxic toxic relationship.
Fair enough.
All right.
Notice the Batman concept costume designs and things like that are based off the TV series versions.
Yep.
Of course, Batgirl comes from the TV series, so she's one of those characters that makes the transfer across from TV series to the comic books. You've got
that's right. Batwoman initially in the comic books, wasn't it? Which is a different iteration and different design palette.
First versions of the Titans, Speedy and Wonder Girl, and all that appeared around that time period. So very, very cool.
And so, should we talk about what was happening in comics at that period of time and talk about?
We should before we leave into anything.
We should talk about the Silver Age and what the hell actually happened to comics.
Because they wrote themselves into a big hole, is what they did. It was from the DC side of things. They were creating so many storylines. There was comics focused on the romances of Lois Lane. There was there was comics what Jimmy was up to, and DC was having a really hard time trying to nail continuity. In the end, it all went out the window.
But that's a process that takes decades to do. But the reason that you got that wackiness of the Silver Age and that leap into high fantasy sci-fi sort of is the Comic Code Authority, and basically a hard ceiling being put onto what they were capable of showing, and otherwise they wouldn't be allowed to sell their wares. And violence, some of the more adult storytelling that they were doing was denied to them. And it was the death of aspects of the comic book industry, horror and crime, that were very big sellers back in the 40s, were decimated by that. Superheroes adapted and capable of continuing on, and they kind of embraced a sort of strange, childish naivety to do it. And I'm not throwing out all of the Silver Age. There's a lot of wackiness that I kind of enjoy in that, and it is its own unique thing. But it's very different than what we've come to associate with comics nowadays. That comes about through the 70s.
Yes, thanks 90s. Ugh.
Yeah. Okay, the 90s took it too far. I'm going to agree with that, and I'll hide my Spawn action figures. All right, so the erosion of the comic book authority. So that started coming about in the 70s. You had a changing attitude in America at the time, thanks to political events such as both Watergate and the Vietnam War. You had a distrust in authority, and you've had a kind of hardening disillusionment. That also, well, wasn't led to, but at the same time, the Comic Code Authority itself was no longer as powerful a body as it had been. So comic book companies started ignoring it entirely, publishing without Comic Code Authority stamps on it and selling in newsagents anyway. You have what's been referred to as the Bronze Age coming about, which was a more adult form of storytelling. You had subjects such as drug use be explored. There's Speedy
is
there.
a junkie.
Yeah, Speedy, a poor little heroin addict. Chase the dragon, mate. Chase the dragon. And
delving into a lot more horror. So you had things like Swamp Thing really, really getting dark and allowing us to learn the name of Alan Moore in the 80s as it came about. You had Blade come about. You had Morbius come about. We wouldn't have had Morbing Time if it wasn't for the Bronze Age. So there's it's not everything's been good. I'll admit that. But so you had a growing complexity coming about in comics. Also, I should note that you also had independent comics coming out at the time as well, with even larger amounts of adult orientated literature. But that's more of an underground scene at this stage still, and doesn't really hit until the 80s and early 90s before it comes into it. Superheroes also in the 70s had a big revival on TV and later in films. You've had Wonder Woman was a massive hit of the period. Hulk was a huge hit TV series. There was a lot of superhero and superhero adjacent sort of figures that were being explored. Even things like $6 Million Man, kind of pseudo superhero in sort of its capabilities and what it actually ended up exploring. You had those few things. You had Shazam as live action, being quite a good hit for Saturday morning TV. ISIS.
And, ISIS before they probably shouldn't mention that name.
Well, it was an actual live action TV series of a superhero called ISIS. Seriously.
Yes.
Get over yourselves, people. Yeah. And
the same complaint is leveled about Archer's spy agency. Anyway,
they didn't nail a name after that.
Yeah, they didn't. Okay, so of course the big hit, 1977 or 78? I want to say 78.
For
Superman the movie.
Oh, Superman the movie was 77.
77? Okay.
Oh, hold on. No, Star Wars was 77. 78
Yep.
was Superman the movie. You're right. Sorry.
Thank you. Cool.
Yeah.
That's all right. And yeah, an absolute blockbuster, which has affected the way that we see superheroes and superhero origin stories going forwards. You know, the fact that you could have Marlon Brando actually even at a dip in his career, on screen speaking for a superhero film was extraordinary. So, yeah. Oh, and I should say, even Spider-Man got international representation and a mech, being sold off to Japan to become the emissary of hell in Japanese Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, but all these changes was something that was very slow to come to their animated counterparts. Scripts remained very child-friendly and Silver Age oriented for much of the decade. In part, it was due to parent advocacy groups complaining about violence on TV, and they had centered on the Adventures of Superman as one of those major complaints. So we're gonna be addressing that later on in DC, but let's look and see what happened with Marvel. So,
Marvel.
Spider-Man does everything.
Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Yes.
Yep.
Spins a web.
Any size. Catch thieves.
Catches thieves just like flies. Yes. Let's not do the entire song.
Okay. But yeah, this is again.
It was the standout cartoon and superhero animation of the late 60s, 70s. It's still remembered fondly by most people. The animation can be a bit janky in places.
It's not quite as bad as the like Iron Man and Thor and all.
Oh no. That was definitely, like you said, motion graphics. But there's a shot where in the title sequence for Spider-Man, this where he swings onto into the scene, catches a girder while he's swinging and there's this weird gravity inversion as part of that motion that just throws me every time, and I
know exactly the point you're talking about now. Yeah,
because it just doesn't work right. But that being said, it's a series that's fondly remembered by a lot of people. It's the version that most of us think about when we think about the early days of Spider-Man.
There's some really good voice acting in it as well, surprisingly. That and I think the music sort of make up for a lot of the faults of the animation. Not all of them, but a lot.
Yes. So it's good. But that eventually had its own spin-off continuation with Spider-Woman. So the Jessica Drew version of Spider-Woman. It's a lot darker series.
Yeah. It's still got issues, and it's got a lot of issues.
Marvel. Let's not talk about how superhero women are drawn in weird at weird angles and proportions.
Well, and Spider-Woman's been recipient of quite a lot of it, but even the setup there is odd for her. As a newscaster, I believe, with a cameraman that acts as a damsel in distress and a kid in tow for reasons, and a news helicopter that's able to get to Egypt in a couple of hours, flying from New York. So, comics, everyone.
Superheroes.
The
the Fantastic Four comes about again. replacing.
That's actually not from. That's the old Fantastic
Yeah,
Four.
I know. I realized afterwards.
Yeah, both this and Spider-Woman are by DePatie Freeling Enterprises, so Canadian company, I think.
Yeah.
And that's an old one because it's got the Human Torch in it, and the Human Torch was famously not in the New Adventures of the New Fantastic Four. He was being, oddly enough, he was removed from the script because he was being shopped out for his own independent movie at the time, or TV series at the time. So he's replaced with Herbie the Robot, which
not based on the fact, not based on rumors that parents thought their children would light themselves on fire trying to copy the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Although maybe that was
urban myth. Yeah, but there's some of that, isn't there? Yeah, totally. Yeah. So Human Torch was replaced by a robot, Herbie.
Who pretty much acted as the comic relief for the series and ground everything to a halt.
We all know he's just the Fantastic Four's version of Seven's Arc 7.
Yeah. Look, oddly enough, I think a lot of the scripts were actually written by Stan Lee, which is surprising as hell. And I can't recall. I think there was also quite a few of them which weren't superhero, like comic book related villains. Again, DePatie Freeling Enterprises, infinitely forgettable, but it is the origin of Herbie, who actually does make an appearance in the current Fantastic Four movie. So yeah.
I'm interested to see that in terms of how they handle all that, because there are 4 of them. No.
Yes,
but the Fantastic Four, as we know, ends up being 7 characters. So
true. Okay. Now this is the weirdest one that Marvel has. With Fred and Barney meet the Thing. So. You know how we're talking about disparate properties being sandwiched together to produce an hour of TV? This is one of those examples. But even then, it is weird. The Thing is Benji Grimm, a young teenager who, if he slams the power rings together and says, "Thing ring, do your thing," changes into the ever-loving Thing.
Okay, I'm not aware of this at all.
Yeah.
Does he say clobbering time? Do we get any of that?
Yes. He's him and the professor that's treating him to try and restore him. Now, it's not suggested if he's restoring him back to the older Benjamin Grimm and something has gone wrong with the treatment, or just trying to get rid of the Thing personality altogether. It is suggested that it may be the first case, trying to restore him to the older Benjamin Grimm. So you've got the Thing, Benji Grimm going through high school with the 2 daughters of the professor, and going up against the Yancey gang, which is a bunch of bikers set to ruin any social events that come up with the Thing. So it's this weird cross between teenage comedy, sort of Archie-esque style, and the occasional superhero moment. Yeah. So that lasted for a season before it got cancelled. And I mean, it has been remembered in later comic books with Miss Thing from when she was replacing the Thing in a run of Fantastic Four, actually activating her power suit by banging the ring together to say, "Thing ring, do your thing." But it's still pretty obscure. So look, honestly, Marvel wasn't great in the 70s. Not gonna lie. You know, perhaps live action was where it was better at. Animation wasn't great.
It's true. It's true. Definitely.
All right, so let's look at DC, and I'm gonna skip the obvious one, and we'll cover the two also rans as well first. So we've got 1977 Filmation covering the New Adventures of Batman. Look, slightly better than the previous one. We've got Batmite as added to the cast as a kind of a scrappy dude. An annoyance to the dynamic duo.
I love Scrappy too. Everyone's down on Scrappy.
Everyone's down on Scrappy.
Everyone's down on Scrappy. Even James Gunn is down on Scrappy.
Yeah. But he's up on Batmite, so we'll see how that goes. Look, it's a really odd one. A lot of designs have carried over from the Adventures of Batman. A lot of the animation has carried over, not as much reuse or as animation errors as previously. And because it was one of the few occasions where two studios were animating the same character at the same time and had the rights to the same character at the same time, because Batman was also appearing in Super Friends, you actually had a different voice actor assigned, two different voice actors assigned to Batman. And at this stage, Batman and Robin were covered by Adam West and Burt Ward in this series.
Very cool.
So look, it's still a really odd one. Slight improvements. A lot of people, there are fans out there of this series. Batmite actually does undergo a bit of an arc, character arc, and to prove his usefulness. A return of a number of characters, villains, rogue gallery, I should say, from both 66 and the comic book series, including the Penguin, Joker, and Mr. Freeze. Riddler is in the title credits, but doesn't actually make an appearance, and for some unknown reason is wearing a pink suit rather than the green suit. But there we go. It also may be the first time that the Joker has a hyena as one of his henchmen. Has a hyena called Chuckles in the group. So yeah. The other one is the Plastic Man Comedy Adventure series, which went from 79 to 81. It was by Ruby Spears, and it was interesting. Season one is looking at Plastic Man, his friend, and his pilot, as they are given missions, spy missions across the world to attempt to solve, and looking at Plastic Man as a detective / adventurer. Season 2, he's married his pilot, has had a kid, and it's looking at that running an adventure with a family basis there instead. So
it's it's still goofy and weird out there, as Plastic Man tends to be.
Yeah,
across all formats that we see him.
And I believe it's an early role for the voice actor that plays She-Ra as well. As Plastic Man's chief. So there we go. All right, so let's go to 73 and the start of it. And we're not going through each iteration of Super Friends.
No, we're just going to lump it in together because it's just,
It's one of those series that keeps on coming back and back and back. After a brief hiatus in 73, it returns in 77, 78, 79, and basically all the way through to 1985 with various reboots along the way. Yes. Season 1 in 1973 can be seen as a reaction to a lot of the complaints leveled against superheroes by the parent advocacy groups of the time.
Yeah.
So series 1, they're not using violence to solve problems. The problems they're looking at are more social in nature than superhero related. They are working hand in hand with authorities to do this. And you've got the Hall of Justice set up and looking at that overall, as opposed to Justice League of America, it's just the Justice League. So it's looking at a more international basis as well. You've also got was it Marv, Wendy, and
Wonderman. So it looks like Dynamite, but
yeah, pretty much filling the filmation quota of having a couple of kids investigating.
I don't remember seeing that version of Super Friends. I definitely saw the others. So
it's they only last one season, but it's an early role for Frank Welker.
Yes.
So yeah.
If you know Frank Welker, he's the voice of Megatron in the TV series for Transformers, and many other things over the years. Yeah, it's still working.
Indeed. Yeah. So you've got that. So it gets retooled in 1977 for the All New Super Friends Adventure Hour. You actually get villains coming into the piece and actually being able to be confronted. It's much more superhero orientated. You've also got the replacement of Marvin and Wendy for Zan and
the Wonder Twins.
The Wonder Twins, which are basically a Donny and Marie Osmond knockoffs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like their designs were totally based off them.
Yeah.
But they had one could turn into flowing water and the other one could turn into different types of animals. They didn't have complementary powers at all.
No.
unless one turned into a duck and floated away on the puddle.
It normally turned into an eagle carrying a bucket of water that was going to be splashed in the face of a bad guy in a comic moment.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Still better superpowers than Batman.
Well, he was pretty much chauffeuring Robin around at this moment in time. So, yeah. All right. So, we got that. We've got Challenge of Super Friends in 1978, where we actually start seeing the Legion of Doom introduced into the second part of the story of the episode. And actually getting a decent sort of more comic book related superhero adventure and less zany hijinks as such. So it started from there to really kind of shift things more in that way, despite the fact that the next season it goes back a bit, shifting it to superheroes dealing with mystic and legendary events for I think it was World's Greatest Super Friends. But going forwards, you had it develop along. It pretty much ended in 85 after a relatively solid run where it was being used to promote a Kenner line of action figures, I believe, after the Star Wars market had died off a bit. So the superpowered action figures, for any that remember those, that would be it. There's also 2 live action versions out there. They are not worth a look. Well, they are if you're morbidly curious. Again, Adam West and Burt Ward dragged into it in costumes, and there's a few of the 66 villain cadre in there as well. There's also some terrible humor. The other thing I guess we should talk about with Super Friends is some of the characters that they introduced as part of the roster. There was an attempt at diversity in season 2, I think, introducing Apache Chief, Samurai, Black Vulcan, I think comes in season 2, which was basically Black Lightning, but not able to use that due to rights disputes at the time. And El Dorado comes in the early 80s. So you at least had an attempt at diversity, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and they are awful stereotypes. They really are. Look, they've been taken into the comics, and they have done things since then and worked better to make them less cringeworthy. And actually, Young Justice season 3 does a really good arc using those characters as well, but younger variants of them. So yeah, look, it's one of those that's at the same time cringeworthy as it's fondly remembered. There's a lot of nostalgia for this series from certain generations. That would be me more than Tanya, oddly enough. And,
I mean, I'm not. While David was watching these Super Friends during the 70s, I ended up watching, what was it? Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in the 80s. So, which was pretty much a piss take on the Super Friends. But I remember, the Wonder Twins and some of that stuff from my early childhood. But looks like Lindsay's joined us to talk about what he's been doing for the 3:30. Look at that. Hi, Linz.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Out by now. Whoops. This is what you get when you're trying to learn Blender.
How's the 3:30 looking since you're putting together the screening for us?
That's true. I'm also working on that as well. That's looking pretty promising. Haven't seen all the entries yet. I've been just basically doing the prep work. And,
nice.
Running around in circles, making sure that's all kosher.
So
places at once at the moment, and one of them wasn't Lightbox. So my apologies, everyone. So I take it we've made it all the way to the 80s.
We made it all the way to the end because
so we're finishing at the 70s.
Yeah, we were focusing on the 60s and 70s because in terms of that, and we have crossed over our hour. And
that's true.
So I guess, is there anything you have to say about I don't know, Super Friends or any of the series?
Or Spider-Man?
Well, the ones that imprinted me would have been the very early, because being born in 1967, the ones that I remember, there was a whole pile of really obscure cartoons, but I do remember the Marvel ones, like the Fantastic Four. I think had a big influence on me. And and so as a toddler, I had these kind of weird impressions of this guy that turned into fire and a gal that turned into glass, and Rita Richards who turned into a giant mattress or something weird like that. It was kind of strange, but there was a lot of weird. I caught the tail end of the 60s hippie era, which was weird.
Yeah,
the things people get back. Yeah.
Sorry, I think we should go back and talk about those superheroes in another show.
Yeah, I think that's
up there that we need to cover.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's the classic. What do I call it? It's really minimalist, to say the least. And I have vague recollections of that early Spider-Man show, but it's really the Fantastic Four that influenced me. But there was a whole pile of strange stuff coming out of the 60s. We only remember about 1 or 2% of it fondly, but there was a lot of other weird shit out there. Very strange. Ranging from, this is old-fashioned kids' TV, which was designed with, like card tables that you stick the kids on in the back corner and they just get ignored by all the grown-ups in the room. Feed them some fairy bread and some red sausages and sauce and hop them up on lemonade and you're fine. And that was, a lot of television was designed that way.
Lose themselves in glorious black and white.
There was always, looking back over all this stuff, what astonishes me is the sheer amount of cartoons that were coming through and just how many of them barely lasted a year. And they had cartoons for everything, if I remember.
It's basically the Japanese industry now.
Oh, well, yeah, it's true. Compare that with, say, Delicious and Dungeon. It's like the idea that something doesn't have 5 series and a huge amount of lore. It's just unheard of. But a lot of those stories were just like, oh, here's a story. Superman fights a sea monster as part of something else. And it's like, oh, okay. And that's the end of it. Nowadays, you'd have like a 10-story arc about that bloody monster. And it would all get very profound and somehow reset at the end. And that
I don't know what you're talking about, Pluto.
That was a strange show to watch, I have to say. Anyway.
I enjoyed it, but yeah.
I think that the familiarity made it work. If it hadn't been for that, I would have found it difficult to get through. And looking at some of the weird, strange designs in that show, then going back to the original and think, oh yeah, they were even weirder and stranger back in the day. But it was all in context. So yeah.
Now we've gone past 111111 on our time scale.
Excellent.
So how do we want to summarize? So basically both periods, it seems to be cheap animation for the most part.
Yes.
60s is incredibly cheap. 70s is somewhat better. Marvel at least had some banging tunes.
Yes, true. In the 60s. DC is very, very dry.
Well, it's your dad, isn't it? Or the penultimate TV dad with a cape.
They were really struggling getting the teen audience. Hey there, teenagers. Check out what I'm doing. Yeah,
that's true. But I have to say, towards the end of the 70s, I just remember cartoons being really old and tired. Even some of the mid-70s ones were looking a bit long in the tooth. Because I just remember us watching lots of old Warner Brothers from the 40s and 50s. They were just banging. And then you'd see something, oh no, it's a Warner Brothers Roadrunner cartoon from 1970. Oh, this will be terrible. And it was nothing.
I think TV animation. They were expected to do a lot with so little. They were getting much less than Warner Brothers.
Absolutely.
Much less than Warner Brothers was in its heyday.
It's very easy to watch 30 years of Warner Brothers all in one hit, I guess, than watching someone struggle to put out a new season each year. But I just remember towards the end of the 70s, it was really starting to look tired. And it wasn't until things like Cosgrove, which sort of like put a whole new spin on things from a whole different direction. And some of that other stuff, like some of the 80s toy lines that had money and funds to kind of cover it, that it started to And
as bad as...
Sorry, go on. I'm still surprised at the production values of some of those 80s cartoons. Like, I never watched half of them, but going back over them, and I remember not thinking much about them at the time, but even things like the Ewoks with Star Wars, like, gee, there was actually quite a bit of expertise going into that. It was all very daggy, but there was a lot of expertise and a lot of skill and stuff going on. Oh, it was incredibly daggy. Sorry, I was an old teenager by that era.
It's weird, isn't it? Thinking that the cartoon boom that came out of the toy advertising, basically, kind of led the way later on. And we'll do this as another topic as well. I'm swear we're going to be talking about the DVverse I think we have to for DC, and probably throw the X-Men in there for Marvel at some stage.
We're talking 90s?
Yeah, in the 90s.
The 90s
I think Marvel had a bit of a shot in the arm in the 90s. They seem to pick up.
Well,
their game.
X-Men, the X-Men cartoon and the toy line associated with them gave him a financial shot in the arm.
Yeah.
So
Back when the X-Men were the shit.
Yeah. But at this stage, we're looking at superheroes from cartoon animation, looking pretty dire, cheaply made, some nostalgic appeal, and slowly working towards much more of comic book story related material.
Yeah.
I think we agree with that. Some interesting voice actors, as I said. You've got the old Superman radio cast involved. You've got Adam West and Bruce Ward involved, and you get Burt, and you can see why I made that mistake. And you get a lot of the some of the up and coming Filmation crew, which will sort of learn to recognise from
He-Man and She-Ra.
She-Ra and Transformers, because I forgot. Plastic Man's voiced by Prowl. I forgot the voice actor's name. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm not going to say that I watched Transformers the movie the other day. Again,
I thought it was a frequent thing.
it is pretty much a frequent thing. I do watch it quite often.
I have to sit down and probably watch it because I was startled at its expertise in the middle of just walking into your screening, actually, and startled at the amount of classic 90s or classic 80s Macross style anime, where it seemed every anime was a industrial designer's wet dream, and everything was just immaculately designed and all this hard space hardware and stuff. It was really cool. Now it all feels like Crawford Productions. Sorry, that's a Neighbours and EastEnders type thing in anime form.
Oh,
well, you may.
Sullivan.
Well, it's mass produced, and there's your average anime series has about 14,000 episodes to it. Each one's about half an hour long.
Oh, that is not true at all. It's all over the place as far as anime season length go.
Yeah, that's true, and that is very true. I'm generalizing horribly, and I apologize.
Yeah.
But yeah.
See, and everyone thinks I hate anime. Yeah.
I was having a go at Dragon Ball Z a couple of semesters ago with my students, and then I embarrassed myself immensely by showing them Akira, specifically the big space laser bit, and it was like, oh, this is more Dragon Ball than Dragon Ball. Hang on.
Yeah, I think the difference is the fight in Akira gets over within an hour and a half, 2 hours for the entirety, whereas that's normally about 3 punches in Dragon Ball.
Yeah, well, 6 weeks of screaming at each other as one slowly grows a lump on their head. Yeah. Oh, he's leveled up. He's over 9,000.
True.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, we should wrap it up for the evening. And
We should.
any final words from, the executors talking about 70s superhero animation? Look, it was the majority of it was nostalgic trash. I enjoyed some of it, but was it good animation? No.
Look, seriously, it didn't pick up until the 90s, let's be honest. There were some moments in the 80s.
I think 80 when Batman came out, 88, 89 for the Batman animated.
Yeah, that's right. And was it Ralph Bakshi on Mighty Mouse? Was that him?
Oh, yeah.
Spider-Man.
That was a little thing that a lot of people looked at and thought, ooh, yuck. But that turned out to be an absolute powerhouse that led to the 90s boom, I think.
Yeah.
I just remember a lot of people were either hating it or they were totally getting excited by the whole 50s retro Spumco look, if you like. And that became the big thing that kicked off the whole thing until one day Nickelodeon had a look at what Ren and Stimpy were actually up to, promptly got their creator fired. But, it's like Pandora's box. It kicked off a whole new world of animation, and we're all grateful for it. Yeah.
So, I suppose it's goodbye for me.
So long from me.
And a brief passing moment from me. Catch you later, everyone.
See you.
I better do my mea culpas.